The stadium lights weren't even on yet. It was still dark over MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, one of the main venues for the 2026 World Cup. But inside a private conference room overlooking the empty field, something unusual was happening. On the massive digital screen, a single name appeared in bold, white letters. Taylor Swift. Not a player, not a coach, not a commentator. And yet, executives from FIFA were discussing her like she might influence the biggest sporting event in modern history. A marketing director leaned forward and said quietly, "If we get this right, this changes everything." But how does the biggest pop star in the world become part of the biggest sporting event on the planet? And more importantly, why did her involvement receive a special mention at all? What happened behind closed doors would surprise even the most dedicated fans. The FIFA World Cup isn't just a tournament. It's the most watched event on Earth. Billions of viewers. Nations united and divided. Careers made. Legacies destroyed. And in 2026, something unprecedented was brewing. For the first time in history, the tournament would be hosted across 3 countries, the United States, Canada, and Mexico. The scale would be enormous. The pressure unimaginable. And FIFA knew one thing. This World Cup had to feel different. It had to feel global, cultural, unforgettable. That's where an unexpected conversation began, one that led to Taylor Swift's name being spoken in rooms usually reserved for football royalty. But why her? And what exactly was her key role? To understand that, we need to go back. It's late 2024. Taylor Swift is at the height of her cultural dominance. Her era's tour had shattered records worldwide. Cities reported economic booms when she performed. Hotels filled. Flights surged. Local businesses thrived. She wasn't just a musician anymore. She was an economic force. A global movement. Meanwhile, FIFA was studying data. The 2022 World Cup in Qatar had been massive, but 2026 needed to go further. More youth engagement. More female viewership. More North American market penetration. The US market was critical. Soccer was growing fast, especially among younger generations. And who dominated that demographic? Taylor Swift. But what happened next changed the conversation entirely. Because it wasn't just about marketing. It was about influence. Early 2025. Private discussions began between event organizers and entertainment consultants. The idea wasn't simple. This wasn't about asking Taylor to sing the national anthem. It wasn't even about a halftime show. The 2026 World Cup finals would need something iconic. Something that symbolized unity across borders. Someone suggested a cultural ambassador role. Someone else suggested producing the official World Cup anthem. Then came the boldest idea of all. A cross-continental opening ceremony tour leading into the tournament, headlined by Taylor Swift. The room went silent. It sounded ambitious, risky, massive. But then someone pointed out something critical. She had already proven she could move economies. Now imagine what she could do for global sports. But there was a problem. Taylor Swift was not traditionally associated with football culture. Would fans accept it? Would traditionalists revolt? Would it overshadow the sport itself? And that's when the real debate began. Here's what most people didn't know. Behind the scenes, Taylor had already been quietly increasing her presence in sports culture. Her appearances at NFL games. Her relationship with Travis Kelce. Her growing visibility in stadium environments. She wasn't just attending. She was learning the ecosystem. Understanding how sports unify communities. Understanding live event psychology on a massive scale. So when FIFA representatives reached out discreetly through her management team in early 2025, it wasn't random. It was strategic. And according to insiders, her response wasn't immediate. She asked questions. Serious ones. How does this empower women in sports? How does this include underserved communities? How does this avoid becoming commercial noise? She wasn't interested in just being a performer. She wanted impact. And that changed everything. Imagine this. It's 2026. The opening ceremony begins in Mexico City's Estadio Azteca. Fireworks illuminate the sky. Cultural dancers flood the field. Music builds slowly. Then, the stadium screens light up with a montage of children playing football across all three host nations. The soundtrack? An original composition. Produced by Taylor Swift. Not a pop single. Not a chart-topping radio hit. But an anthem built around unity, rhythm, and resilience. Her voice doesn't dominate. It guides. The camera cuts to fans crying. Players standing still. Millions watching worldwide. No one saw this coming. And yet it feels inevitable. Because what she brought wasn't celebrity.
It was storytelling.
As the tournament progresses, something remarkable happens. Streaming numbers surge. Youth engagement skyrockets. Female viewership breaks previous records. Social media interactions explode. Analysts begin saying something quietly. Her involvement expanded the audience. Then comes the final in New York/New Jersey. The largest live audience in World Cup history on U.S. soil. Before kickoff, FIFA's president takes the podium. He mentions sponsors. He mentions host nations. He mentions players. And then he says, "We would also like to extend special recognition to an artist whose creative partnership helped bring this tournament's spirit to life." The stadium erupts before he even finishes the name. Taylor Swift. And in that moment, something shifts. Not because she scored a goal. Not because she lifted a trophy. But because she proved that culture and sport no longer live in separate worlds. After the tournament ends, analysts begin breaking down its success. Economic impact numbers are staggering. Global viewership sets new records. Youth soccer registrations spike in North America. But something more subtle happens. The emotional tone of the event lingers. Fans remember the anthem, the opening visuals, the collaborative messaging about unity. And suddenly, conversations shift from, "Why was she involved?" to, "It actually worked." Here's the truth. The world is changing. Entertainment and sports are merging in ways older generations never imagined. Influence isn't confined to one industry anymore. Taylor Swift's key role wasn't about replacing football.
It was about amplifying it.
Bringing new eyes, new hearts, new narratives. But the deeper question remains, was this a one-time experiment? Or the blueprint for the future of global events? Picture this. Years from now, a kid watching highlights of the 2026 World Cup hears that anthem again. They remember where they were, who they watched it with, how it felt. And maybe they don't remember the boardroom meetings, or the marketing strategies, or the quiet negotiations. They just remember that it felt bigger, more connected, more alive. And maybe that's the real story here. Not that Taylor Swift had a role, but that she helped write a moment in history that didn't belong to her. It belonged to the world. And that's something no one can copy.